Good Wednesday morning, everybody. This is the mayor's press conference that we have each Wednesday after our Tuesday council meetings, where I can make some more announcements and touch on some topics that we handled at the meeting last night, and then open it up to questions from the media and then anyone who is online watching. Want to remind folks that tomorrow there is the Town and Gown meeting on the W campus. It's at 11:30. The wing commander will be speaking. I encourage folks to come out for that. It is a $20 fee because lunch is provided. And this week it is going to be, they originally announced that it's going to be in the Pope dining room, it's the Goose, I think they call it, right?
Right.
Yeah. But it has been moved to the Cochran building, which is right across from Welty, the main building on campus. And it'll be at 11:30. These are important meetings. I had the honor of speaking at the last one, and then the wing commander will be at this one. These meetings are quarterly, and it's a great way to find out what's going on between the city, the W, and the air base and other activities in the city. So I hope people who have opening at lunch tomorrow at 11:30 and can afford a $20 meal, you'll show up for it. Also, as I mentioned last night, the Southside Blues Festival will be June the 29th through July the 1st at Townsend Park. It begins on Thursday night with a youth movie, and then Friday night from 6 until it'll be gospel groups performing, and then on Saturday night it'll be blues groups performing starting at 4 p.m. until. If you have more if you'd like to learn more about this, a couple people you could contact is Supervisor Jeff Smith and Councilwoman Ethel Stewart, because they are on the committee that plans this event, so they can be happy to give you more information. And you can also look on Facebook and other places where there's a lot of announcements about it. Also on July the 1st, fireworks on the water will take place again this year on the east bank of the Locken Dam, Wilkins Wise Road. This is sponsored by Visit Columbus. The gates open at 5, it's free of charge. There will be food vendors there. There will be fireworks that evening. There will also be a flyover and a concert featuring the country group Chapel Heart. Also performing before the Chapel Heart will be Honey Boy and Boots and the Mississippi State Singers. Again, that's on July the 1st, rain or shine. It will be on the East Bank. Starting on Sunday and going through Thursday of this week, the mayor and city council members and several city employees will be in Biloxi attending the Mississippi Municipal League Conference. This is an annual conference that happens each year where mayors and city council members and city employees from around the state gather for continuing ed courses. So we will be there most of next week. So because of that, there will not be a work session on Thursday the 29th. City Hall will be closed on July the 4th, Tuesday, July the 4th. So the council meeting will be held on July 5th. Same time, same place, same channel. But again, we will not have a we want to have a work session before that meeting. Okay, there were several things that we talked about last night. One of the things that did not garner a lot of discussion that I will touch on is people probably noticed there's a lot of travel requests in for conferences, for city elected officials and department heads. I was actually listed originally to attend the 10 Tom Conference. When I saw all the different conferences that were coming up and the expense, I took my name off to see because I was listed with another employee to go. I wanted to study that to see if it's really necessary for both of us to go. I have attended that conference before. I went the first year as mayor. I did not go last year. My plan was to go every other year. And then we have several other travels that were listed. I am a firm believer in continuing ed conferences and support that, but I also want to make sure, and I've talked to the COO and a department head about this, to make sure that when we're requesting for 2 people to go, is it really necessary for 2? If we've got 5, is it really necessary for 5? That's just concerns on my part. We do have a travel budget for those expenses, but I think we should always be looking at making sure we're being the best stewards there. We also, the council voted to the intent resolution to borrow money for Probst Park. That is something we've been discussing for quite some time. That was passed on a 4-2 vote. As we've mentioned, that will trigger several things for community input before we actually do the borrowing, but we will be moving forward on that. My stance, I will repeat again, has been I'm all for Probst Park. I want to see it improve, and I think we should invest the money that we have set aside for it. I'm still not for borrowing money at this time when you look at the overall finances of the city. And that is not to be interpreted as that I don't care about Probst Park, because I do, and have said that from the beginning, and look forward to however we move forward with it, that we do it in a positive manner. We also looked at ad valorem tax exemption for a group called My Home that is from Atlanta. I think they're Atlanta-based, and they are refurbishing what used to be, years ago, the Holiday Inn, which is right across from the Magnolia Bowl. They were asking for a 10-year exemption, which the city council has approved for other businesses when they were, or organizations when they were doing old buildings or trying to improve, especially facilities in the downtown area. That is something that the city can do. There is state law that allows it. The council has mentioned in the past that they were concerned about doing this too often, because what it does is it freezes the ad valorem tax based on the value of the property when it is purchased. It does not take into account how it will be assessed after all the improvements. I think this is something that we'll continue to discuss. As we mentioned last night, the council and I are cautious as to not look like that we're not business friendly in the city. There are people from outside Columbus that are looking at investing in some very good areas here that otherwise would be sitting dormant. So in this case, we voted for a 2-year exemption, and this will be an intent. They will still have to come back before the council, and will go before the Board of Supervisors to try to get, I believe the supervisors can give them up to 3 years. Is that correct, Jeff?
They can give them up to 7 years.
7?
But it can be no more than what the city gave.
Oh, they can do no more than what we gave. Okay. So they will be going, I'm sure, before the Board of Supervisors. So that will probably be something that we will continue to discuss going forward, because we do in Columbus want to be very welcoming to businesses and places that are looking to invest in our city. We did vote on moving forward with an annexation plan from Bridge and Watson. What the council did vote for last night was to have Bridge and Watson, who've been looking at our redistricting and annexation for quite some time, to move forward looking at the 2 areas in East Columbus that Vice Mayor Mickens and Councilman Jones requested. It was also added to the list to look at potential annexation north of the city, going towards the Columbus Air Force Base. So there will be more discussion on that going forward in the coming weeks. My take on that personally was that this is not a good time for us to be looking at annexation. I think that cities always need to have an eye on it for growth. There are cases, and I have both of them here. If anyone would like to read them and look at them, they're quite extensive. There's a Mississippi Supreme Court cases, one in 2019 that was between Coahoma County and the city of Clarksdale. There's also one from 1994 where there were individuals in the city of Columbus case. So there's a lot of things you have to look at. The group that we're going to be using as to advise us on this process went through the 12 steps, and they're listed in this these cases that cities should look at before they continue to look at annexation. There's a lot of things that can happen before you move forward on something like that. One of the things to keep in mind is, though, that we do have to have an approval on our redistricting by 2024, he gave us a date, didn't they? So that, because that could affect the next elections.
Yeah, 2025, I think.
2025 is the next elections, but we needed to have this decision made in sometime in 24, I believe he said,
Yeah.
to be able to give it all the times that are needed to get everything in place for the election. So I'm sure there'll be more discussion on that as we move forward. We did look at the trash collection vendor last night. There's been lots of discussion over the trash. These are not easy conversations, and we've been trying, they're complicated. And we've been listening to the residents. There's been a lot of debate over whether it's twice a month, twice a week. Do we have cans? Do we not have cans? Can it be done downtown? Can it not be done downtown? Do we use a sidearm? Do we use a regular, all those things that go into trash collections, and primarily the cost, because we could be seeing a cost increase. We've been trying to do everything we can to keep that down. So what the council voted for last night was to table the decision, and we do have a trash committee that met early on when we were looking at this type of selecting the next vendor. We will bring that group back together. Our COO, Jamie Garrett, is working on a special call meeting the council had some specific questions they wanted answered last night that we did not have for them. So that we'll keep moving forward on that in the coming days as well. We had some individuals. Barbara Bigelow specifically spoke for the Red Cup District proposal that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now. The council voted to create a Red Cup District Committee, which we will pull together today and begin having conversations to finalize. It looks like the council is favorable on creating the district, but we need to be very specific about the time frames of when it will be, when people can actually participate in the Red Cup, walking through the downtown area between shops, and the exact boundaries of where that will take place. There have been other discussions about it, that it will need to be a distinctive cup, that there will be an increase in foot patrol or patrol from the police department in the downtown area during those times. Ms. Bigelow listed several cities throughout the state that have been doing this for quite some time, and she has reports on how they've got data that shows that it has picked up businesses, shopping and stuff in those areas, and there have been no real issues on that. So that's another topic that people have a chance to weigh in more on in the coming days. And I believe that's it on the main topics that we discussed. But now I'll open it up to any questions that anyone might have.
The northern area that you guys are talking about annexing out towards Columbus Air Force Base, can you elaborate on that a little bit, exactly where it is and how many citizens you're looking at?
Well, I mean, I can give you a little bit of information on that. I believe it stems back from that study was in place before, back in 2009, I believe. The idea was if you're going to annex in that area, an area to consider would be the Air Force Base, because of the number of people who live on the base. They already have all the resources they need at the base. There would be very little expense from a city standpoint, but that would increase the number of your citizens, which and also the wealth level and all the things that people look at when they're looking at a city for expanding or bringing in new industry and businesses. So I believe that was one of the reasons that had been looked at in the past. But I think we'll be open to looking at that whole area going north. What we're trying to do is, if we're going to do an annexation, is try to find, to go in the direction that makes the most sense to benefit the entire city, and to do it in a way that is meets the criteria of annexation.
Several years ago, when Starkville was looking at annexing, Mississippi State just opted out. They were looking at taking in MSU. Can CAFB also just choose to opt out? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure. I'm sure that they could. There's all kinds of things that you can test in the law. So, Jeff, do you have a thought on that?
I wouldn't think that they just have the right to opt out, but they could contest it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what Mississippi State did, just contested it, I'm sure.
But you don't have any, there's not any firm boundaries yet?
No,
Just kind of-
that's what we're beginning to look at. Now, there were firm boundaries in the two East Columbus areas, but as far as going north, there are not firm boundaries there to my understanding, but it's primarily focused on the Columbus Air Force Base. Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
My memory from '09 was that they went up the Highway 45, staying within the right of way.
Mhm.
So you didn't have to build a fire station or provide police services outside the highway. And then took in the base itself only, which provides all of its own water, sewer, fire, police, and everything. So there would be no cost to the city except the cost of the litigation.
As far as the Red Cup District goes, can you speak a little bit to who's gonna be on that committee and how that committee is gonna be put together?
Yeah, I'm going to sit down with Jamie, our COO, Ms. Garrett, probably right after this meeting. In my mind, it needs to be, she and I will serve on it with the two council members that it falls in their wards, which I think would be Jones and Beard. And then looking at having like Barbara Bigelow from Main Street, Nancy Carpenter from the CVB, and probably we'll look at having Jeff Turnage, our city attorney, will need to be on there, and possibly some business owners that would be affected by it. We want to get as many people together that will be helpful in getting this worked out. This is going to be an inclusive committee, not an exclusive.
Can you talk a little bit about what the boundaries are that you guys have in mind?
Well, from my understanding, in talking to them, that it would include the areas that are currently restaurant bar areas, starting around on 5th down towards the Princess Theater and where Jay Broussard's and Huck's, and those restaurants are that way, coming down that way, going by the Arts Council area there, and then through by Zachary's and Munson Brothers, and then also include obviously Harvey's as well. The question has been whether do you extend it on through the Burns Bottom area where the redevelopment authority is working now. If you do it there, would it be beneficial for them to be able to attract other restaurants and bars in that area? The question is too, though, I think where the council is leaning is to, in the beginning, keep it as restricted as possible without going too far to see how it goes. We want to, anytime you're making change like this, I think it's wise to be cautious in your efforts to make sure that we're prepared to do this. And then if need be, expand it once we have the amphitheater and stuff like that. They could look at other expansion areas of it. But right now, I would think it would be fairly locked into where we have people that would be wanting to be able to walk and shop and that kind of thing. And again, this is would only be light wine and beer that would be allowed to do this, and it would be in a specific cup from purchasing it from a restaurant and bar downtown. People can't just come down with their beer and liquor and walk all over the city. That's not what this is.
And will it affect the soccer complex at all?
Well, if it goes towards the redevelopment authority, yeah, that would be included in it. I don't know that it would allow it to be on the soccer field side with it, but the redevelopment authority is on that would be some of the things we would be discussing in this with this committee. And I think we're trying to have everything. We'll try to have the discussions with them soon, because I think the council will be ready to vote on this at the July 5th meeting.
I forgot to ask this about the annexation study. Do you guys have a firm cost on it? Before it was, I think, 9 to 11.
That's what the estimate was before, but that was before the other section was added. We'll be in discussions with them now and getting an update on what the figures could be.
The garbage committee that you guys are going to have meet, do you guys have any kind of timeline on that as far as when they're going to meet, when they're going to come to some kind of decision?
ASAP, Ms. Garrett was working hard on that this morning, trying to figure out one of the issues that we're having is trying to have a special call meeting when so many people are going to be on the coast next week. It's difficult to try to squeeze it in, but we're probably going to try to squeeze something in maybe Thursday of this week is what we're looking at. Tomorrow. I have already had phone calls from some of the vendors this morning that were not able to watch, and gave them an update and encouraged everybody to go back and watch that section if they weren't able to see it, because there were a lot of questions and good conversations. There were also a lot of citizens in the audience for that reason last night, and we're talking to some of the council members afterwards.
That's all I have.
Kevin, you got anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right,
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody.